Okay. I acknowledge in my campaign video that I spoke of consequences for perceived wrongs, and I had to honestly ask myself, who am I to tell you these things? I know, but you have no reason or desire to hear. Transparency is key. In this video, I intend to tell you anything that people will feel in the future that they can use to silence me, blackmail me. I'm going to get in front of that right now. Also, I would like you to know that I have made mistakes and redemption is possible. There are 3 specific events in my life that I acknowledge that my actions caused another individual direct harm. I have analyzed these events in my life in depth. Therefore, I do believe I have the ability to tell you, play by play, the events and emotions that took roles in my life in order to get me to thinking to a point that I could justify my actions. I may explain that with time, but that will not begin with my story. That already comes off as if I want to point the finger at somebody else for my actions. Anyways, the 3 events are this. I caused 2 people direct physical harm, and I caused someone emotional strife by abusing my perceived power. These actions are not a secret. People closest to me are aware, the victims themselves are aware, and the people closest to them are aware. This is just new to you who I have not met yet. I acknowledge that what I am confessing to may bring up emotions in you that are disconcerting and uncomfortable. It is an understandable reaction. My past actions still make me look back and say, really? I guess some people would refer to this as a trigger warning. I'm just saying, yeah, you're gonna feel some type of way, and that is my consequence, not your burden. As the end of my campaign, I am willing to discuss this further if someone feels that they need to. I also acknowledge that I am going to legitimately confess to illegal activity. If a power outside of me feels it necessary to assert that power over me and to implement consequences, I accept that as a possibility. I taught consequences for actions. What I hope to ultimately convey is that I had and continue to have consequences, and I also attempt to make amends. My wrongs have been acknowledged. Maybe in doing this, we can open a channel for you to admit and correct your wrongs rather than keep it in the dark. I know 100% that if I never tell you this, I will get away with it. Anyways, the feelings I have right now is fear. How I felt when I was writing it. Don't feel that anymore, but here we go. First incident was in 2013. My age and theirs is not relevant in my opinion. I do not want people to defend saying that's not bad or to be able to imagine the extreme. You will have your perceptions, but all that matters is the facts. The facts are that I did something illegal with someone who could not legally consent. To protect their identity, I cannot get too in depth. I was in a power position. I was the adult and the agreed upon age. They were not. I entered into a physical relationship after about a year of knowing this person. I was living in a delusion when I committed this action. I did not keep it a secret. Their family knew because I had the audacity to interject my will into their lives. Our bosses knew because I spoke of it, and my family knew because I spoke openly about it. This strange and unacceptable behavior continued for about 6 months before physical intervention and boundaries were enforced. People would make comments on the relationship like, you realize you are allowed to do this activity, and they are not. That was them attempting to create boundaries, which I disregarded because my actions were justified, my intent was pure. Again, this is what delusion looks like. After 6 months, the father created a physical boundary between us and pretty controlled, he pushed me back. He just pushed me back. This was his body language literally yelling, stop doing this. That intervention was 100% acceptable because I needed that literal wake-up call. It snapped me back out of my delusion. I ran. I caused more harm at this point because the other person now feels guilty that their father and this person who is showing love are in a high emotion situation. Things get worse and every action just causes more harm after this. I leave. They feel pain. I stay. I feel pain because this is wrong. Their family feels pain because the more they interject, the more this person runs to me. My family is now involved because in my attempt to separate, I cause harm by attacking their character. I want them to feel hate because that brings separation, right? No, it brought more strife because now this person, unable to legally consent, cannot handle the rejection and claws for acceptance. You see how that whole situation was just unnecessary, unacceptable, and totally avoidable? Yet my actions caused all these consequences. I am grateful that I came to a point where I realized my wrongdoings and make amends. Because yes, I did this. I cannot take it back. But I am responsible to clean up the mess that I've made. And this is a long process. The action lasted 6 months, but it is 6 years later and I am still living with it. I do choose to forgive myself, but that is not a pass to give up on the healing process. You may ask, why 6 years? Because my interaction with this person caused them harm. They need time to heal. I started with a verbal apology to open a line of communication, met with an obvious response derived from pain. Now, all I can do is be there and accept if forgiveness is not in the cards for me. That is a consequence. Also, if this ever gets to a point where one of these people happens to see this, again, I am sorry. And I acknowledge my actions caused a boundary to be placed between us. I hope that one day the boundaries can subside and your healing process can truly begin. It starts with my apology, and the only true action I can take is to sit my ass down and listen to the way my actions affected you, how my selfishness made you feel, and accept it for a fact. I am here to listen if that is the process you need. The second action was an emotional harm. I again abused my power. I was so lucky to be in a position in which I could help someone in need. I used that connection to create an emotional bond on an intimate level that I realistically could not obtain. Physical activities were not involved in this one. It had the potential to become that, and I knew it and still continued. So in a sense, you could label me a repeat offender. But if you label me, I just ask that you look in the mirror. Have you offended repeatedly? In this situation, I was considered a mental health professional. Someone felt comfortable confiding in me, and I received that with selfish ideologies. They trust me. Obviously, that is grounds for a relationship. So I made that happen. With my body language and inviting gestures, I seduced this person. I made them feel love I made them feel the love that they so desperately needed at the time. They fell into my trap. My bosses questioned, her family knew, and my family knew. After the investigation, I did not tell them during. The relationship did continue after the investigation. Just being honest. There were consequences. I lost an amazing opportunity, and I got investigated. That was nothing though. 4 years later, I'm still yearning to right my wrongs, which is the price I pay. She may never forgive me, and that is also not their problem. I just ask for forgiveness because I no longer want to be the source of your pain. Lastly, the physical pain once again. I physically assaulted a member of my family. I punched her so hard that it looked like she got hit in the face with a baseball at full speed. No matter what happened before that, that action displayed by me was unacceptable. I acknowledge this, and again, I am willing to listen about how my actions made you feel, and I ask for your forgiveness. Before I end this video, there's a couple things I would like to touch on. In these situations, there were others involved, and my actions are in no way their responsibility either. The families of these people did not know how to intervene. There was a perceived love, and they truly saw it for what it was. Their interventions would have distanced the relationship with that person. I am also sorry for putting you in those situations. The bosses were treading lightly because with the false accusations, lawsuits were likely. Is the protection of the innocent more important than the gain of the giant? I understand their lack of intervention. I take that burden from you, and I apologize for putting you in that situation as well. I am willing to listen to how my actions affected you. For those of you in these abusive relationships, here's advice from the aggressor. To the aggressor, you need to sit down and really look at what got you into this delusional mindset, and start taking the appropriate steps to right your wrongs. If you have no idea how to do that, ask for help, an outside source, and accept the consequences for your actions. To the witnesses, do not be afraid to intervene. You may have undeserved consequences if the aggressor manipulates. We will be here fighting for your freedom because you've done nothing wrong. To confront an aggressor, simply look them in the eye and be direct. I see you doing this. Why are you doing this? Now let's fix it. To the victim, if it feels physically good but emotionally painful, that is abuse. Please seek assistance to remove yourself from that. You deserve better. If you find yourself in a situation where help is not possible, I am fighting for you. Many people out here are fighting for you. Please be patient and hang on for dear life because we are coming.